Hello, listeners. This is Kat, and welcome back to Put Your Hands Up Podfics. This will be the continuation of Little Acts of Kindness. This will be part 38, chapter 38, entitled, What Do You Mean This is Therapy? You're gaining some good control, little listener, Yamada said, giving him a thumbs up. Thank you, Izuku said, carefully watching as the light remained green. It was nice to do this training with Yamada-sensei, even if he wasn't joining his classmates for the heroics lesson. They were going over theoretical knowledge right now, something Aizawa said Nezu would go over with him during one of the lessons, and in far greater detail than what Izuku would learn in the class, which gave him the lesson off to train with Yamada since he only had today and tomorrow left before they were heading out to internships. I think you should be able to speak up in class if you want, so long as you're able to keep calm and focus on your volume. Really? Izuku asked, surprised, wincing when he saw the flash of red. Yamada just chuckled. Yeah, you're doing really good now, and a few shouts won't hurt them that bad. Right now, it's getting to the point where the best way for you to gain control is to speak in conversations. Izuku just nodded, a thoughtful look on his face as he took the info in. Maybe during the internship or after, he should try speaking to get used to using a normal volume so he didn't have to focus so much. Anyways, it's time for your session with Hound Dog, Yamada said right as the bell rang. The teacher walked next to him, through the halls, keeping him safe from the crowd of kids as they started to leave the school. Soon the two arrived at Hound Dog's office. All right, Midoriya, do you want Joe and I to take you home or the train? Izuku bit his lip, remembered that they liked him, wanted to spend time with him, that they wouldn't offer this if they weren't willing to drive him home, and signed. With you. Yamada's grin seemed to split his face as he gave finger guns. All right, then. You can find us in Joe's office when you're done. Izuku nodded, and steeling himself, he knocked on the door to Hound Dog's office. Come in, Hound Dog called out. Opening the door, he walked in, sending one last glance at Yamada. The teacher's look of pride shocked Izuku. He could see how proud the blonde was looking at him through those green eyes, and Izuku wondered just what he did to make the man look at him with those eyes. Why? Why were Aizawa and Yamada so nice to him? When no one else was, these two were kind to him, even knowing he was quirkless before UA, and here he was not even telling them the truth that superpower wasn't a copy of All Might's quirk. They might know about the bullying, and him, but he hasn't really told them many of the details, just the facts. The most basic of the information, what details they did know, came from other sources. Maybe he should tell them. They should know about the details of his past, or at least how things went down from his perspective. Midoriya. Hound Dog's voice broke him out of his thoughts, and Izuku found he had gone to sit on the couch in autopilot mode as he thought about talking with Aizawa and Yamada. Izuku looked up at the guidance counselor and pro-hero Hound Dog. Would you like to speak what's on your mind? Izuku shook his head. All right, then. How about you tell me about how you've been this last week? I've been okay, Izuku signed, looking anywhere but Hound Dog. I heard you had a lesson with Nezu Monday, Hound Dog commented, not asking a question, but letting Izuku tell him any details he might want to. Remembering Monday, Izuku couldn't help but shudder. The feeling of a robotic piranha was a terrible one, or being chased by that monstrosity robotic direwolf. A cackling laugh as Nezu's voice came over the speakers. Release the robot piranhas. Forever that phrase will haunt Izuku. Or at least, until his next practical with Nezu. He was a bit glad his class wouldn't have to deal with Nezu training them until third year, or well, that was what he gathered that Nezu tended to train the third years and leave the first years alone. He hoped that was true for his year as well, but he knew Nezu's interest peaked in their year due to the villain attack. I definitely don't want to talk about Nezu's training, Izuku finally signed, as Hound Dog seemed to be waiting for a response. The quirk counselor just nodded, and Izuku wondered what these questions had to do with quirk counseling. He understood meditation, but the first meeting and this meeting were filled with questions. Gathering up his courage, he signed the question. How is this supposed to help me with my quirk? Hound Dog's eyebrows shot up. That was last week, Midoriya. This week is your scheduled therapy session. Izuku blinked, tilting his head as his brain repeated the question. What? Over and over again. The counselor gave a small growl. Midoriya, were you not informed about the details of our meetings? Izuku swallowed, shoving himself further back into the couch, at the growl, Hound Dog sighing and holding hands up. Sorry, I did not mean to scare you, but I can't help you if you don't know why you're here, or if you don't want my help. I'm here for quirk counseling, Izuku said. Aizawa-sensei mentioned it while we were in the nurses' wing after USJ. Hound Dog huffed. I suppose he forgot to mention he also signed you up for normal counseling sessions to help you. Izuku bit his lip. He doubted that Aizawa forgot to mention it. That didn't seem like his teacher at all. But these sessions were signed up before he trusted Aizawa. Maybe the man thought getting him to open up to Hound Dog would be easier than him. You're scheduled for quirk counseling and therapy every other week. If you aren't willing to participate in the therapy, then I won't be able to help you. Help me with what? Hound Dog almost seemed to be smiling behind his muzzle. With whatever you need help with, Midoriya. Izuku knew he had issues with speaking with new people, and that the first week had ended with Hound Dog suggesting he be more social, which ended up with him having dinner with the Monomas. Like your advice from the first time to be more social? I don't think that really worked. Oh? How about you tell me what happened? Take your time. Izuku nodded and decided to write it down instead of signing it. He wrote how he tried to force himself to be more social and ended up having an awkward dinner with the Monomas. Hound Dog read it over and then sighed. That isn't what I meant when I said you should be more social. I meant with your friends that you have now. There was a reflective flinch at the word friend, and Izuku signed. I don't have friends. Hound Dog blinked. You don't? Why not? Izuku bit his lip, but all of his classmates already knew, so he wrote down how a couple boys had forced him to be friends with them, gained a small amount of trust before hurting him, shoving him into a closet full of bugs. And you think that your classmates now would do that? Maybe not the same thing, but... Izuku hesitated in his signing, shrugging. I understand that your quirk gives you trust issues. Do you think that this could be part of the reason you're unable to trust your classmates? A bit, maybe. No one has ever really been there for me before. Not until now. Of your age group, who do you feel most comfortable around? Izuku hesitated for a moment, then signed. Uraraka, Ida, Monoma, Dark Shadow, and Tokiyami. Why do you feel most comfortable around these people? Uraraka and Ida stick by my side, even when I stutter over my answers. They never seem annoyed or angry at me when I do, or even when I end up mumbling. They don't force themselves on me either. If they see it that I'd rather be alone, they leave me to myself. They never try to insist that I call them friends either. Monoma is my rival, not like Bakugo, but one who actively encourages me to improve and doesn't put me down when I fail. At least, he doesn't do it meanly, more like a reflex of his. He noticed he went too far the day before the sports festival and apologized to me, saying he was a jerk, not an asshole. He even invited me to his birthday. I haven't been invited to anyone's birthday since I was 5. As for Dark Shadow and Tokiyami, they just kind of hang out with me. They don't really speak much, but their presence is comforting. Like yesterday, I was walking through the hall and these kids from general education were glaring at me, and Dark Shadow came out and glared at them, and Tokiyami moved to stand in between me and them. It was really nice, and they didn't even bring it up that they did it. They just acted like it was perfectly natural. He's even learning sign with me. Hound Dog smiled. I would encourage talking to them some more. You don't have to be friends with them, but just make a bit more conversation with them. Or if you feel trying to talk with all of them is too much, how about just one of them? Izuku rubbed an arm before hesitantly signing. But what if I end up copying their quirks and they get mad at me? If I get to that point where I trust them like that? Hound Dog gave a grunt, tilting his head. Doesn't your quirk allow you to break any bonds like that, so you don't copy their quirks but can still trust them? Izuku's mouth fell open a bit as he realized he could do that. He had forgotten. But if he did that, he would never be able to copy his classmates' quirks. I understand that doing so also makes it impossible to ever copy their quirks, so I would think through this carefully. Would you like a copy of the information on your quirk so you can make sure you know everything you can before making a decision? Izuku nodded. He had written everything down, but if he forgot anything, it would be important to review it. Maybe if he cut the bonds, he could actually trust his classmates without worrying of them being mad at him for copying his quirk. Good. All right, I think our time for today is just about over. Think about what I said, all right, Midoriya? I will. Thank you. It's no problem, kid. I'm just doing my job. Izuku blinked, still unused to how different UA was to everything before, but he finally nodded and signed a goodbye before leaving the office. Slowly he walked through the empty halls, thinking about everything that Hound Dog said. He was halfway through the halls heading towards Aizawa's office when he heard racing footsteps. Wait up, Midoriya! It was Mineta. He tensed a bit. The boy made him really uncomfortable with how he spoke and talked to the girls, but he still stopped. He tilted his head at the boy, giving a confused expression to Mineta. Oh, you're wondering why I'm here? Izuku nodded. Well, I'm suspended, but I still needed to have detention with Midnight-sensei. She wasn't available until today. I thought it would be really good detention, with how sexy she is, but... Mineta looked nervous. He paused for a moment and then took a breath. Midoriya, can I ask you a question? Mineta questioned, looking away. Izuku waited until Mineta looked at him again before giving a nod, curious as to what Mineta had to ask. I got suspended because of my behavior, and Midnight was asking me why I acted like that, and... Well, I just wanted to know if you thought my behavior was bad. Bakugo said you dealt with bullies and stuff, and harassment with that whole being shoved in a closet thing. Midnight said that what I was doing is kind of similar, but can also be considered worse. So I guess I just... Mineta looked uncomfortable. Please tell me the truth and don't try to make me feel better. If I want to be a hero others can depend on, I need to know the realities of my behavior, even if I don't like it. Izuku stared at the small boy, seeing the potential hero he could be for the first time. Mineta was looking at him with determination. He wasn't cowering away from the truth, he was trying to face it head on. So Izuku pulled out his notebook, since he knew Mineta hadn't started to learn sign like a lot of his other classmates have in order to understand him. Tapping his fingers a bit, he debated how much to say. Your behavior has creeped me out before. It made me uncomfortable, even not directed at me. I've seen the effects of sexual harassment. It's not pleasant. You talk about the girls as if they're objects to be possessed, that they are only as good as they look, which isn't true. It makes them feel bad when you talk about their boobs and all that. Admiring girls and flirting with them isn't bad, so long as you don't go overboard and make them upset. Don't ever push a girl if she says no either. You're friends with Kaminari, right? Maybe talk with him about what's going too far and what's all right. Mineta read over it and nodded. I will. And I'm sorry I made you uncomfortable. Izuku gave a hesitant smile and wrote, Just learn from your mistakes, Mineta, and I'm sure you'll make a good hero one day. Mineta's eyes watered, and he gave a shaky thumbs up. I will, and after internships I'm going to apologize to the girls, but I want to make sure I understand what I'm apologizing for. I don't want to do this half-assed. Izuku gave a thumbs up to his classmate, who turned and walked off, clutching onto the paper Izuku had been writing on. He watched the boy for a bit before continuing to Aizawa's office. All right, listeners, this concludes Chapter 38 of Little Acts of Kindness. Chapter 39 will be up next. Eager to hear your thoughts and reactions as always. Thank you so much for listening.